It's so fun. Love it. Love it. You guys feeling groovy? I'm feeling groovy. Oh my gosh, yeah. So this talk is called Feeling Groovy, but it's also called Three Things I Learned in India. And when I got to India, the first place I went was New Delhi. And I went there because my goddaughter is there, and so I got to stay with her. And her name's Venu. Someday you'll meet her, I'm sure, because she comes to visit me quite often. Venu has a new little puppy that is so cute. And yeah, his name is Bingo. He's actually a magic dog. Have you heard of this breed? It's a new breed. You have to order it way in advance, but it actually is magical. It's called a Labracadabrador. No, I think he's a lasso app, so I don't know what he is. But he's a doll. He's a doll. So the first thing I learned in India is that in India, a guest is God. And that translates over here too. One thing I learned, we'll keep this up for a minute, okay? Keep this up for a while because I'm getting to that story. But I was a guest in India, and I met so many people who were warm and welcoming and went out of their way to help me. I mean, everything from trying to get my huge compact carry-on case up into the overhead bin. Like here in the US, it's like you have to ask somebody, do you mind helping me? Or, you just struggle and they ignore you or whatever. But in India, they like compete to who gets to put it up there for you, who gets to take it down there for you, who gets to carry it out there for you. They're like so kind and they don't want anything for it. Women, especially, they see women as their mother. So, I mean, I could play that role now with my white hair. I felt like everybody's mother. I felt like everybody was younger than me. But even, one time I was looking for the Hard Rock Cafe, and the cab just dropped me off on the sidewalk, and I'm like, where is it? I don't see it. Am I in the right place? Like, where is it? And he goes, just start walking. You'll find it. I'm like, what? So I get out of the car and I'm looking around, and some nice woman comes up to me and she says, you look like you're lost. I said, I'm looking for the Hard Rock Cafe. She says, oh, it's across the street. I'll take you. And she literally walked me across the street, because that's a big deal in India. Trying to get across the street is a really big deal with the traffic and everything the way it was. So what it means that every guest is God is to see the divinity in everyone. And here is our former mayor of Los Angeles, who is now the ambassador to India. And he is one of the most gracious people I have ever met. And he has really embraced this role as the ambassador to India. And so we had a very kind of diverse group of people. You can see on Ambassador Garcetti's left there is the Swami from Delhi. He looks a little grumpy, but he wasn't. He was very, very nice, but I think he doesn't like having his picture taken. And then there's another Swami from Delhi. And then these other guys were, I'm not sure what, they were like devotees for the Delhi church, and they got to come. And then next to me is Venu, my goddaughter. So it was really, really sweet. And then he was just very good at including everyone in the conversation and really listening to our needs and everything. And then when we got in the car afterwards, Venu turns to me and she goes, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, what do you mean? Why didn't I tell you what? She goes, why didn't you tell me that ambassador is so hot? I'm like, oh, okay. She got a little crush on him, because he was so gracious. So the second thing I learned in India is to go with the flow, to be flexible, that, plans are meant to be. What is, oh, who is that? The Beatle that said, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans? Yeah, I'm John Lennon, right? That is like my whole trip to India. My whole trip was like that. And I just kept saying, it's okay, because the attitude in India is that everything that happens happens for a reason. And there's nothing that there's nothing you can do to stop anything that was meant to happen. And if you there's nothing you can do to make something happen that was not meant to happen. So just go with it. Just go with it and allow things to happen. So let's go to the next slide. So this is me in a rickshaw in Varanasi. So after Delhi, I left for Varanasi, and I did not have a schedule. I just figured, let's see what happens. So what was supposed to happen was the hotel was supposed to pick me up at the airport, and then that day I would go to the hotel, and the hotel would find somebody to take me around. And then the next day my friend was coming in, and we would go do the temple together. And then the next day I would leave. That was kind of that rough outline. So I get off the plane in Varanasi, and I'm looking for the sign that has my name on it from the hotel to pick me up. Not there. Nobody is there. No sign, no name. I'm on my own in this very crowded city and going, okay, what do I do? And there's this huge crowd of cab drivers, all young men. Ma'am, ma'am, taxi, taxi. Like, these are probably the two words that they know the best, and they just keep yelling, yelling. And there's a line, and you can tell they like have to stay behind the line because they don't want people getting mobbed. I'm just going, okay, these are my options. So I'm looking at these guys, and there's this one guy kind of in the middle, and he's just kind of smiling and looking at me like, I feel for you, because I know what position you're in. Everybody else is like trying to get me, and he's just sitting back smiling. I said, okay, you. So I picked him, and that's him, and his name's Vishal, and we had so much fun together. I'm like, okay, it's an hour drive to the hotel. How much is it? He's like 1,200. Well, you do the calculations. 1,200 is like 1,200 rupees is like $12. Okay, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I can do that. So we're driving to the hotel, and he speaks English. So we're having this conversation. Are you from Varanasi? Yeah, he's from Varanasi. You know your way around? Yeah, I know my way around. I said, well, I looked on Expedia, and there's all these tourist destinations, but I figured those were going to be crowded, and the most popular things. I kind of want to go off the beaten path. He's like, I can show you around. You want me to show you around? I'll show you around. I go, yeah. He goes, when do you want to do it? Today? I go, yeah, let's do it today. So he drops me off at the hotel so I can check in, get my bags, and then we're off on this adventure. So he takes me to this Hanuman temple. Gorgeous. Almost nobody there. Beautiful grounds. Walking around. Just me and him. It could have been romantic if it was somebody else, but it was just so lovely, because India is so loud and chaotic, but in some of these temples, it's just like this little oasis of calm and reverence and beauty, and it's just really so nice. So we went there, and then I said, I really want to go to the Ramakrishna temple in Varanasi, because that was part of my deal. Is wherever I go, I want to see one of the Ramakrishna temples. And we went there, and it was closed, but because he knew Hindi, he talked to the Swami that was there and said, she's visiting from Los Angeles, and can you just let her in to walk around? And he's like, oh yeah, of course. So he let me in. So I was really the only one there in this closed temple. It was amazing. Loved it. And then they had a little bookstore there, and I thought, I want to get some gifts for my sisters at the temple. And they had these like little lockets, not lockets, but like pictures, but two-sided pictures with Ramakrishna on one side and Holy Mother on the other side. And I'm like, oh, these are really nice. And I'm like, Well, how much are they? And they're like, they're 15 rupees. That's 15 cents. So I bought a bunch of these little ones. I'm like, this is so cool. How would I ever have found this? I was in the right place at the right time to get this. Okay, so go to the next one. Okay, so then the next thing I wanted to do was I said to Vishal, he's like, what do you want to do? I go, I want to go on the river Ganga. The river Ganga is the Ganges River. It's the most holy river, like maybe in the world. This is the place. Varanasi is known as Shiva's city, Lord Shiva. Shiva is the Lord of death. And it's known where people go there to die. And they want to be there when they die because it's said that if you die in Varanasi, you automatically get enlightened. So it attracts spiritual people from all over the world. Second best thing is if you die somewhere else, if you get cremated in Varanasi, then that's second best thing that can happen to you. So on the way they do this is they have the river, and then on one side of the river are all these like staircases that lead up to buildings. And so at the bottom of the staircase, they call it the Ghat, from where you enter the river. And there are probably 50 along. So I had seen this on Expedia too, that you could take these river cruises, and you could get like a little rowboat, or you can get a little motorboat, or you can go in a ferry, or there's lots of different options, But I was like, I don't want to go on a ferry because it's going to be crowded, and then you're stuck out there. You can't say, hey, pull over, I'm seasick, or I need to go to the bathroom, pull over. I thought, okay, I want a boat that I'm comfortable. I don't want a rowboat. I want a motorboat. I want to be comfortable. But on Expedia, it was like $200. And I'm like, oh, shoot, this is a lot of money. So I told this to Vishal. He goes, don't worry, I got you. Takes me down there, talks to this guy in Hindi, whatever. He goes, okay, he's got a driver for you, $50. I'm like, okay, let's go. So it was him and the driver and Vishal and the driver and me. That's it. 3 of us on the Ganges River going up and down. And on the other side of the river, like the Ghats are on one side. On the other side, there's like this desert. And I never knew what was on the other side of the desert of the river, because when you look at the tourist pictures, you only see the Ghats, right? But on the other side is this like desert. So there's a beach and there's camels. And he goes, do you want to take a camel ride? And I'm like, sure, why not? I mean, I'm here. I'm going with the flow, right? So for a whole $2, I got to take a camel ride, and I'm on top of the camera taking the picture, and those are like other tourists or whatever, and we're walking. And then, okay, so go to the next picture. And then after the camel ride, this is me on the river, the sunset, I don't know if you could see it because it's not a great picture, but there's the sun right there. We saw the sunset on the Ganges. It was so beautiful. I couldn't even believe it. And then the next thing that happens is, go to the next one, Marcia, is, okay, this is kind of blurry because these guys are in so much motion, okay? They have at 6 p.m., which is about sunset, they wait till sunset, they have Arati, which is a ceremony to the Mother Ganga. It's like an offering to the Mother Ganga. And honestly, I didn't know what to expect because I heard it was really magnificent and totally worth going. It was like a Las Vegas show. It was a spiritual Las Vegas show. And here these guys are with they look like Christmas trees with lit candles, and they're waving them. There's like 5 of them all dressed up in unison with chanting going on in the background, the music, the lights. It was just like, oh my gosh, you get mesmerized. You're like in this trance from all the spiritual energy going on this river, and all the people just like in awe, going with their, chins on the floor, just going, wow, what is going on? And then at the end of that, you get a candle, and it's in a little like cup thing, and you light the candle and you put it in the river and you make your own offering. It was so cool. I was just in heaven. Okay, so go to the next one. Okay, so then that was at nighttime, and I went back to the hotel. I was exhausted, fell asleep. In the morning, I get a text message from my friend who's supposed to come with me to see the temples, and she says, our flight got canceled. We can't come. So they're in Delhi. There's so much fog that all the flights in and out of Delhi got canceled. So I'm like, okay, now I'm on my own. What do I do? So I'm like, I'll call Vishal. So I just call him up. I go, hey, remember me? Yeah. He's like, yeah. I goes, well, I'm free. Can you come take me to the temple? I want to go see that big temple. He goes, I'll be right there. Sure enough, he's right there, like not even an hour away. He comes and he says, it's a holiday today. Did you know that? And I said, no, I didn't know. What holiday is it? He goes, it's the harvest holiday. It's the day when they fly the kites. You may have seen this in the movie. Everybody's flying kites. And it's the equinox where now it's the beginning of spring and the harvest is done. And now we're celebrating that there's more light now in the daytime. There's more light in the day. I'm like, okay, well, I'm still in my little hotel room. I don't know what's going on outside the world. But the minute he picks me up, I'm like, oh, I see what you mean. The streets were so crowded with people and cows and goats and people with suitcases and people with backpacks and rickshaws and bicycles and dogs and families and old people and young people, and everybody is in town. They want to be in Varanasi on this auspicious day. This is like the place to be. And I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe this isn't such a good day to go to the temple. If everybody's going to the temple, how am I going to get in? The line's going to be so long. He goes, don't worry, I got you, don't worry. I'm like, okay. I'm just totally having trust in my heart and going with the flow. This is feeling groovy, right? I never felt unsafe in India, not for a minute. So I'm like, okay. So I said, well, what's your plan? He said, well, first I have to find a place to park. So, that was a whole ordeal and paying people off to get a place to park. And he goes, I know this guy. So we're looking for this guy. And then we're sitting in a restaurant. All these people are talking. And I'm just like, okay, like I'm just following along. So then this one Swami comes. I could tell he's a Swami because he's wearing all orange like our Swamis wear at the Vedanta Society. And he starts talking to Vishal. And then Vishal says to me, okay, give him your passport and 600. And I'm like, okay, well, why does he need my passport? And he goes, because, you have to be Hindu to get into the temple. But if you're not Hindu, the next best thing is if you're American. And I'm like, oh. He says he's going to get you a ticket. I go, a ticket? Like, I never heard of tickets. They don't have tickets at these things, right? I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to say no. I want to go to this temple. I give him my passport with my visa. I give him 600, which is $6, okay? He goes off. I'm sitting there. Vishal's like, okay, you can't take in your phone. You can't wear shoes. Give me your phone. Give me your shoes. And you can't take pictures, nothing, no electronics. Give them to me, and I'll watch them for you. I'm like, okay. So I'm just like giving all my stuff away. I'm like, okay. The guy comes back, gives me my passport back, and he's got this piece of paper. It's my ticket. I'm like, okay. And Vishal says, I'll wait here. You go. He didn't get a ticket for me. He got a ticket for you. I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm following this Swami now, and there's some other women with us now, and she speaks English. She's Indian, but she speaks English. She was visiting from out of town, so it was the both of us. So we're walking in and out of these small streets and passing people and passing the line and going around, and I'm like, where are we? This temple is so huge. How am I not seeing this temple? Where is this temple? And all of a sudden, we saw it, and there it was, and there were so many people. And he takes us up along the side, past all the lines. There's a security guard there with the rifles on either side. big macho guy with a mustache, you know, making sure people don't come in. The Swami hands him my ticket, points to me. The guy says, "Let's me in." I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And it was beautiful. It was very crowded. It was a little bit uncomfortable because there were so many people. But I got to do what I was supposed to do. I was holding this big basket for $5, I bought this big basket of flowers and incense and candles and like ash and all this stuff, you know. So I'm going up there and I don't know what to do. And the Swami's like throwing this and handing this and doing this like for me because I don't know what to do. And then he takes the ash and puts it on my forehead. He goes, "Okay, bow, you're done." And I go, I'm like, okay, whatever just happened, I'm done. And then he says, "Okay, now," to me and the other lady, he said, "You can just sit here and meditate for a while." And I'm like, that was the best part because you're sitting on the holy ground and you can just feel it, you know. And so we just sat there for a while and it was beautiful. But that's the temple. It's the Vishwanath temple. And you for some reason, you're not supposed to take your phone in, but the Swami took his phone in and took a picture of me and texted it to me. So I didn't have my camera, but he had his and he sent me one. So that was amazing. So the third thing I learned is to be childlike, to have that sense of wonder. And so you can go to the next one, Marcia. This is my friend Rajesh. He's the one who illustrated You've Got This, Arjuna. And he has that sense of wonder. He's an artist. And we did a book signing. We did 2 book signings. So go to the next one, Marcia. And we also went and visited the Lotus Temple. And go to the next one. And this is at the book signing with our book. And all the little kids who were so into it and were so, their faces just lit up. And I'm like, "Do you know who Krishna is?" And they're like, "Yes." And they all knew and they wanted to talk about it. "Do you know why he's blue?" "Yes." You know, they knew all this stuff and they were just so loving and sweet. And I loved like experiencing the world through their eyes. And I played one of my Bright Ideas songs, "You Are My Shining Star," and we're doing that, you know. And they're all singing and dancing, and I was just in heaven. It was just so beautiful. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, and then this is at Dakshineshwar. These 2 women are from Russia, and they're Ramakrishna devotees. So when I stayed at the International Guest House, I met people from all over the world. I met a man from Brazil. I met a man from Germany. I met these 2 women from Russia. I met a woman from Korea married to a man from India who live in the United States, who have a little daughter, Mima. And it's amazing because when you see little kids, you think, oh, kids are kids are kids are kids, right? When you look at parents or adults, you tend to judge, like you have these labels and everything. But when you're in situations like this, it's like, no, we're all little kids too. We're just like older little kids, and everybody's the same, and we're all in the same boat together. And literally, we were in the same boat together because we were in the ferry that went over to Dakshineshwar, and it was just so beautiful. Okay, next is, okay, and all over the world, Hard Rock Cafe, next one. Starbucks coffee, all over the world, even in India. Basically, is there one more, Marcia? I can't remember. Okay, oh yeah, and then these are other friends I made. This is the Victoria Memorial. This guy I met standing in line for the plane. He is from Kolkata, but he lives in Austin, Texas, and he's going to help me with stuff, you know. And this girl is a choreographer. I met her on Fiverr.com because I was looking for people to dance in our video. And then that's her partner who like will videotape. And we were going to do a music video at Victoria Memorial, but the weather wasn't good enough. So they're going to do it and then send it back to me. But they showed me all around the Victoria Memorial. So I think that's the last one. So basically, 2 quotes to go away with. Paramahansa Yogananda said, "It is spiritual poverty, not material lack, that lies at the core of all human suffering. It's not because we don't have enough things, it's that we don't feel the connection we already have with the divine that we suffer. So feeling groovy to me is all about feeling that spiritual connection, going with the flow. You know how records have those grooves in them? Well, if you go, it doesn't make music, but if you let the needle stick in the groove, da da da, feeling groovy, you know, it plays the song. And that's what we want to do, is just play our song. And Rupert Spira says, the world is not what we see, it's the way we see. And if we can see through that lens of everything is divine, everyone is divine, then we are truly in the groove. And I totally feel like India is my second home, and I can't wait to go back. But for now, I'm glad to be here because this is my home too. And I'm